Now, we're going to talk about the phospholipids, and I mentioned that these are a really important molecule in our cells. These are the molecules that make up our cell membranes and all of the membranes of our organelles, our membrane-bound organelles, like the nucleus and mitochondria and chloroplasts and endoplasmic reticulum. They're made of these phospholipids. They have a very interesting structure. They have a polar head group. So this circle right here is called the head, and then there are two fatty acid tails. Here's the structural diagram right here, and you can see that in the head group, right here, we have a couple carbons, a nitrogen, a phosphate, and this is what really makes it polar. So you can see the phosphate right here, very, very, very polar. And then we have a glycerol molecule, but instead of 3 fatty acid chains, there are 2 fatty acid chains attached. And they're nonpolar. So we have this nonpolar region, the tails. Whoops, can't spell. Nonpolar regions, those 2 tails. And this sets up a really interesting dynamic in cells. So in our cell membrane, because our cells are surrounded in water, and the interior of the cell, the lumen, which is where your cytoplasm is, this is also mostly made of water. So these phospholipids want to put their polar regions towards the water, and the nonpolar tails, they head inward. They face inward towards each other to get away from the water. They're hydrophobic, remember those words, hydrophilic and hydrophobic. The hydrophilic heads will point outward in the cell and also inward towards the cytoplasm, and those little hydrophobic fatty acid tails, they point inward. And this is referred to as the phospholipid bilayer. So bilayer meaning there's 2 layers of these phospholipids, and this creates this nice arrangement that can be completely surrounded by water. So this is what your cell membranes look like. And just to show you a couple of other structures that can form in living things, we have our bilayer right here. That's what our cell membranes look like. Sometimes fat or lipid droplets will form what's called a micelle, and this is one layer of phospholipids. This is what you'd see if you put a greasy pan in a sink full of water and a little bit of soap. All the grease would break up into these little fat droplets in the water. That's what we call micelles. All the tails turn in on each other and the polar heads point outward. And sometimes we get these droplets called liposomes. And it's also a bilayer, but you get this, this core in the middle here. And interestingly, this is something that pharmaceutical companies will use in order to deliver drugs into the body. So the active ingredient of the drug will be in the core, in the center, and then they surround it with a fatty material that forms a liposome around that hydrophilic or polar drug that's in the middle. And this is what helps deliver that drug into the body. It'll get digested across the wall of the intestine and into the bloodstream and go to the liver, where it'll be broken down and the drug will be released. So it helps to keep the drug from getting broken down in our digestive system. So it's kind of a really neat application of phospholipids in the pharmaceutical world. So the next group of lipids I want to talk about are the sterols. Sterols are lipids that are made up of ring structures. So they have rings. Oh, hello. Let me get out of here. They have, oh, the text box wants to move. Okay, they have rings. Cholesterol is probably the most famous sterol. It's a critical molecule for life. We all think cholesterol is this terrible, terrible molecule, but it's actually essential for life. You need it in your cell membranes. It helps to keep them fluid and keeps them from fracturing and breaking, so they're really important. Here are some other sterols. The steroid hormones are all sterols, so we do have the cholesterol over here again. This is your basic steroid structure, and here's a couple of the steroid hormones, estrogen here and here, and testosterone. So again, you can just see they have this common multiple ring structure. They are lipids, but they're all derived from each other. Our steroid hormones we actually make from cholesterol. There's another hormone called cortisol, a really important hormone in stress situations, and it's also a steroid hormone derived from cholesterol. And the final group is the waxes. Waxes are fatty acids attached to a really long-chain alcohol molecule. Here are some that you can see that are shown in the examples here. The ones down here really show that you have these really, really long hydrocarbon chains with an alcohol group at the end. It really just creates a really large hydrophobic molecule. So that's why waxes are really so great at repelling water, and that's why we use them in applications like skateboards and snowboards and skis. So you can see why this would be a great water repelling molecule. So that brings me to the end of the lipid tutorial. This is the end for now. Our next video will be about proteins.